This is 91.3 FM, WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr.Chris Radio of Horror program. And tonight on Radio of Horror, all the way from up in the northern part of New England from where we are, because we're kind of like in the middle part of New England, we have the model artist Aesthel on the show with us. Thank you for coming on the show with us.
Hi.
Hi.
Huh.
I love that introduction. It was short and to the point.
It's me. Hi.
Did you go to the H.P. Lovecraft thing last weekend in Providence? Because I know that's kind of your thing, and that's where I met you last year, which was at NecronomiCON.
Mm-hmm. I didn't go to that this weekend because actually NecronomiCON last year is the only time I've ever been to Rhode Island.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool. You missed it a couple years ago. They had I thought last year's Necronomicon was really cool. But
it was so much fun.
2 years prior to that, in 2013, that Necronomicon I thought was much better. Because they tied it into, and I asked them about it this year. I was like, why didn't you guys? And they're like, we just couldn't do it. It's just a matter of like the scheduling and when they do it in the city. 2 years prior, they tied it into the water fires. And they had like bands there outside, all these Lovecraft bands playing Lovecraft-related music. And so cool. Alter Dagon was there, who's been on the show. And they had like this chanting being pumped through the speakers all through the city around the river where they have the bonfires on the river. Wow. Yeah.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it made for just a much more like, ooh, kind of experience. And one of the coolest things was I got to walk like around the bonfire. I ran into her on the elevator, and she introduced herself, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool! Your husband was so great." And then I ran into her again in the city around the bonfires, and so we walked like arm in arm like around the bonfires, talking. Dan O'Bannon's wife, Dan O'Bannon's widow, rather. Dan O'Bannon is a science fiction writer for Hollywood who wrote the script for Alien.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's
as
awesome.
well as many other things. His script was changed a lot from what he originally wrote it, but a couple things really kept in there, and there was that one thing that was like stayed permanent in his script despite all the changes was, and then this creature pops up out of the guy's chest.
Yeah.
And that really intrigued the other script writers.
Iconic part.
Yes. Go look him up on IMDb and you'll see like the credits of what he's done. And his wife came to Necronomicon again last year to try and show, because she has a 35 millimeter print copy unedited of a movie that was made that when it finally went out in theaters, it was like chopped up and just like destroyed, and her version, her husband's original version, was a much better film. And it's based on a Lovecraft story, but I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. But she's been trying to shop it around to different studios, like Synapse Films or Scream Factory to pick up to release.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Your story about how you met her on the elevator reminds me, like, we've been to so many conventions, and I've met so many, like, actors and famous people in just the weirdest things. Like, what convention? I think it might have been Rock and Shock last year. I met one of the actors from American Horror Story in the bathroom. And it's like, oh, hey, I see you on TV all the time. This is weird.
You pee too, huh? So do I.
Wow. Stars are just like us.
That reminds me of my friend Cordelia. She went to a convention. She was supposed to go to a convention with me, and I ended up not going, but she ended up already buying her ticket and going anyway. And she was on the elevator with Misha Collins, who plays Castiel the Angel on Supernatural. And she's like, I don't watch your show, but my friend is a huge fan of yours. Can I take a picture with you just to be like, not a fan, but guess who I got to meet at the... He was like, sure. And they took a picture, and she sends it to me, and I'm like, ah!
There's so many people I've met that it's like, I'll go get like pictures with them or their autographs just for other people, so I can be like, guess what? I met this person you really like.
My friend Stephanie went to the one and only, and I mean this, the one and only convention Jamie Lee Curtis has ever been to. It was Days of the Dead, and no, it was Horror Hound. It was Horror Hound the night she came home, and she ran into her in the bathroom. They took a selfie together in the bathroom. I was like,
my mom and I have a sorry.
No. Go ahead. That was my frustration over like, damn it, I wouldn't have been in that bathroom anyway, not being a woman, but that's besides the point. You meet all the coolest people in the bathroom. And she's like, I do. They're always women. Isn't that kind of funny?
I was going to say, my mom and I have a tradition of every year watching the movie Hocus Pocus. And a couple of years ago, I got to meet Doug Jones, and I got a signed print of him as the zombie from that movie, and I gave it to my mom.
Billy the Zombie, yep.
Yeah.
He was at Rocket Shock 7 years ago.
I wish he would come to another convention around here. He's one of my favorite people. He's such a nice person.
You missed it. He was at Rhode Island Comic Con last year.
I know. I really wanted to go. One of my friends went to that, too.
It was the whole cast of Hellboy reunion. Yeah. It built Ron Perlman, him, and Selma Blair. They had a big Hellboy reunion. They had a big Hellboy panel, which I could not get into. That Hellboy panel was packed.
Yeah, I bet.
And then, of course, if you wanted a picture with the entire Hellboy cast, it was like $150. Of
course.
Yeah. But Doug takes like free pictures, which is really nice. He's got a Nosferatu thing coming out. He's going to be remaking Nosferatu.
I've actually been reading a lot about that because I've just been spending the last couple of months making my new tarot deck, which is all like old horror movies. So Nosferatu was a huge influence on a lot of that. So every time I was researching stuff about like the actual film Nosferatu, that kept coming up, and I was like, oh man, I want that.
What a great way to segue into talking about stuff that the reason why you're on the show, which is about you and not other people. So you had a Kickstarter for a tarot deck. Go on and explain. People are going to be tuning into this going, what the fuck? 7 minutes of just talking about celebrities they're in love with. Get to the point, people. He's a terrible radio show host.
It's okay. Other people are cool, too.
Okay. So you were saying about your Kickstarter with your tarot deck.
I've done 2 Kickstarters for 2 separate tarot decks, and I have 3 tarot decks in total that I've made. The first one I made when I was in my first year of college, I was making one card as a like a school project kind of thing. Like we just had to do a creative, like digital art thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do the whole thing. That kind of went out of control. And then since then, one of my big inspirations is like, I'll be like, man, I wish there was something of this. And instead of just sitting there waiting for, or like wishing it was there, I would just do it. So I'm really, really inspired by David Bowie. And I did my first Kickstarter for a David Bowie tarot deck, which raised $2,285 out of the original goal, which was like $650.
Wow.
And I actually started that at the convention that I last saw you at, I think.
Scaricon.
No, it wasn't that. I last saw you in June.
Yeah, we saw each other at Scaricon.
No, it was the one I met you at NecronomiCON. That was when I started.
Okay, so last August.
Yeah.
A year ago from this time, actually.
Yeah. So I was originally like starting it then, and then over the fall I made all the cards and did the Kickstarter and stuff. And then by the time the Kickstarter was over and I was mailing out the decks for the like Kickstarter orders, was the same week he died.
Oh wow. Holy shit. That's like some type of weird mystical thing.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's crazy. How do you run a successful Kickstarter? Because I did one and I failed fucking miserably at it. But I see people who have success with it, and some people they have like a like kind of like built-in audience and stuff like that. Even with my radio show, it just was not successful, and people are kind of pushing me to do Dracula, the gender swap Dracula project that I'm doing as a Kickstarter for the comic book. But I'm like, why? I'm looking at the print cost to print this comic book myself, and these aren't that bad.
I think part of something I did with mine was, since my stuff isn't like mass produced, I have a very, very small goal. Like I said, my David Bowie goal was $650, and then for the horror tarot that I just did was $700. So it wasn't really a lot to raise, but it was still like, I don't have this money. I need to raise this so I can get this thing printed. And you want to factor in, like, if you have any extra things, like if you have like pins or prints or any like smaller rewards besides the actual main product, you want to factor in the price for getting all that stuff printed too. So it's a lot of math, and I usually have to get help with the math part of it. But I also try to get at least like a good chunk of it done before I do the Kickstarter, so I can be like, look at all this stuff I already have, and now I just need to get it printed, basically. Like with the horror tarot, I had like more than half the deck already done before I even started writing the Kickstarter page.
I have no belief in tarot. And that it's not like a put down on anyone, by the way, listening, including the guest, that is into tarot and reads it. I don't have a lot of that type of faith in it, you know what I mean? But I would buy, if I could afford it, and I had the room, I would buy multiple tarot decks just because the artwork is so freaking cool.
Yeah, that's part of my, on my Kickstarters, I had art prints. They're prints of some of the cards that you could just hang up on your wall or something. Because I was really proud of the art I did in them too. And a lot of people I know aren't super into tarot. And even, I love it, but I don't see it as this is telling the future and this is definitely what's going to happen in your life. It's more of this is kind of a fun thing to do and not this is the rules of your life and kind of thing.
Have you ever heard that Chris Rock song? He's he goes through all the different zodiacs and he's like, Sagittarius, you're gonna die. Leo, you're gonna die. Capricorn, you're gonna die. I forget the name of the song or how it starts, but he's talking about tarot card readings or zodiac readings or something like that. He's just I'm gonna give you the predictions right now. You're gonna die.
Yeah. And it's still true.
The funniest thing in listening to it. We just had on a guest who I think you listened to her interview. Misty Lee does super professional tarot card readings. I asked her about it, and she's like, "Oh, I do," but they're for high-end business clients. I'm like, what do you mean? And she went on to explain about how Fortune 500 companies will hire her out for big parties at the top of the tower type of. Post event big celebrity parties and stuff, and I'm like, oh wow. And she's like, yeah, so I don't do run of the mill. I don't invite people over to a studio, or we don't do them on my Vegas show at all. I only do it for big events that involve black card kind of clients.
I used to do readings on my Etsy, and the only reason I stopped selling them on there is because I was getting so many of the people that are too crazy. It was yes, at the time I was I'm 19, I don't know your life, and yes, I can tell you what these cards mean, but it's not gonna change your whole life, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And I still do readings for fun, but I don't do them for I don't sell them really.
What would you classify your artwork as?
Mostly digital art. I do a lot of other stuff. I'll do drawings and paintings and sculpture and stuff like that, but the stuff for my tarot cards specifically is digital art, but it kind of mixes in together things. I'll take some things a photo or a drawing and I'll mix it with a actual picture of something. So for the Bowie ones, I had the picture of David Bowie that I did a pop art version of, and then I combined it with photos of sunsets, or put in different forms of art into one piece.
Now, who's your partner that you're always with at tables with, your business partner?
That's Eric Anderson. He's the person really in charge of the Shoggoth Assembly, which is a makeup company, and I work with him a lot. I first started working with him after my junior year of high school, when my school had this apprenticeship program where you could just find a business and go work with them for school credit. So I found Eric as one of the only special effects people in Maine. And I was like, hey, I'm a kid. Can I come do makeup stuff with you? And it went through, and ever since then I've been working with him at least every weekend.
Oh, that's...
And we've gone to a lot of conventions together and worked on a lot of films. It's really fun.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, most kids don't get to do anything as creative and cool as that, as working in something with special effects makes up. It's usually kind of a boring internship.
I think Eric was very helpful with that, with not just being it sitting around watching him do stuff. He was I'll show you how to do it, then you can do it. And then he taught me, and eventually it got to the point where we'd be on films and I could just he would send me up and I would do the stuff myself because I knew all what he showed me. So it wasn't just me sitting there watching it. I learned it and I could do it.
One of the things that I reposted when we promote you were coming on that I was absolutely in love with, that I think you told me at ScareCon you were doing, was your Magic costume. Did you make that yourself?
The bodysuit is made by my friend Jenna, who her name online is Kitten in Strings Cosplay, and but I made the sword completely on my own. It's I'm actually staring at it right now. It's in front of my computer. It's It's a plastic training sword for like actually learning how to sword fight. And I painted it and I attached a bunch of like lights inside of it, and then I built the flames off of it so it glows and the flames like fly in the wind, and it's really cool.
What's funny is you have to wear a blonde wig for what normally people wear blue hair for having
Yeah.
blonde hair. So you're kind of doing it in the reverse right there.
Yeah. That wig is actually really, really close to my normal hair color.
Can you chant any type of incantations in a Russian accent like Magic would?
I can't do any accents. I'm not very good at them.
Because Ileana, for anyone who's not aware, is the sister of Colossus. Because Fox can't do anything with the X-Men universe other than the same racist plot line over and over and over again. We'll never see Magic in the X-Men movies, by the way. So
Where I was glad to see Colossus in the Deadpool movie, though. He was so good in that.
yeah, no kidding, right? That was fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to finding out who they're going to cast as Cable once they figure they finally nail it down. I thought that the guy who was in the movie Don't Breathe, that's out in theaters now, Scott Lang, is that his name? He plays the blind Gulf War veteran that hunts the kids down in his house. He has been attached. His name has been brought up several times to play Cable. And if you watch him in this movie and you look how jacked he is, you're like, damn, he would make amazing looking Cable.
Nice. I'll have to check out that movie.
Yeah, it's good, but man, is it messed up. That is a screwed up movie, and it's from the director of the remake of The Evil Dead, as well as the producers Sam Raimi, Rob Tapert are the producers of the movie. So it's that whole kind of team, but it's just, I don't want to spoil anything, but jeez, this guy is not so innocent, trust me.
I'm excited to see it now.
Yeah, but afterwards you gotta tell me, just like the scene on the secret, when you get to it, you let me know online what you feel about it, because I was like squirming in my seat. I'm like, oh, come on. So is the next Magic costume gonna be like the cloven horns and the antlers coming out of your head?
Yeah, I really want to do that one next.
Yeah. Do you? How would you be able to do like the cloved feet?
There's a lot of things online that I was thinking there's like a stilt thing where you can kind of build out your legs to look like they're bending in the same way that this kind of goat leg look.
Yeah, the goat like Hellboy's legs.
Yeah. I was thinking actually for her, the next thing I'm going to add on to it is I'm going to build her arm and her leg piece, that like the metallic thing, to add on to what I already have. And after I've done that, I will do that part, because the more demon-y one, because I can add the arm piece onto that costume also.
Are you gonna do the tail and like the like the spray tan, because she's got kind of like tan reddish skin, and then what she has for clothes is like almost nothing. It's like this little leotard and then like a tiny little
her like chainmail bikini top.
Yes,
what is the point of that?
It's basically a chainmail bikini is what she's wearing almost. It's not so much a in some, I think, is it a tank top or is it a bra?
I don't remember.
Is it fully red Sonia, or is it like a little bit more clothes? You kind of wonder, it's like, how do you go from like your New Mutants costume to that,
Yeah.
and like the weirdo excuse about how they brought her back, and like, because she dies of like the legacy virus, but her part of her soul is still in limbo, so she forms a new body. Didn't her like body revert back to its like 7-year-old self?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're looking at her in this like chainmail bikini. Is she over 18? I
think in the point of the chainmail bikini, I think she definitely is much older at that point.
I hope so, because otherwise I feel really bad about myself. And then of course that brings up the you do like a ton of modeling. Do you find the modeling to be easier than being an artist and like crafting stuff yourself? Which do you enjoy more?
I think it kind of ties in with each other. Like, I like to make things to wear in my photo shoots, and I first started modeling because I was doing a lot of cosplay stuff, and I started doing cosplay photo shoots, and I loved doing that. And that at first felt a lot easier because I could be in character. I could not think about being myself. I could just be like, I am this character. I'm posing how they would, I'm looking how they would, and I'm acting how they would. And I could pose with props and stuff like that. And then when I first started doing photo shoots as just myself, it was like, oh, this is me. I can't act like someone else. And but now I've grown to really like being just me in my photos too.
So you don't want to dress up as much anymore, or?
No, I still like to do both. I haven't made a lot of new cosplays recently just because I haven't had a lot of time to do it, but I'm always like planning new ideas or like thinking of like sometimes I'll just look at things like characters and I'll be like, I wonder how you would make that. And I'll do like a whole plan of like how to make this character and I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to do it, but I figured it out.
Do you get a lot of as a female model? You get a worst blah. Let me start over. As a female model, you get a worse kind of attention than a male model would. How do you kind of push it off or deal with it in a way?
I don't personally know a lot of male models, so I don't know what kind of stuff they get, but I definitely get, especially as being like an alternative type model, so many people being like, you should do nude photo shoots, you should do all these sexual things. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not really into doing that. Like, it's fine for people to do that, but I don't want to. And that gets very pushed in. Like, normally, if I can talk to someone and be like, oh, I don't want to do that, let's do something else, and it'll be fine. And then there's other people that will keep pushing it, and I know just like, I'll think in my head, like, no, don't work with this person, don't talk to this person anymore, and I'll just kind of ignore them from then on.
They, when I was at ScareCon with you, my booth girl was getting like attention from some guy who I knew to be like really kind of sketchy, and trying to get through to her that this person's bad news. This is what I've heard. This is not like that great of an idea. She didn't take it so well. But I see that a lot sometimes with model friends of mine. Like people just in like the worst kind of way, just being all creepy and sketchy up in their business.
I feel like I don't get a lot of that in person. I get more of it online of people leaving like weird comments on my pictures. I usually just delete those. But there was one photo shoot I did that was in the city of Portland, and we were just like walking around the city finding like whatever looked like a cool thing to pose with or be in front of for the background. And we went to Asylum. They have this big back wall that's like a graffiti mural thing that says Portland across it. It's really, really beautiful. But right next to it is a parking garage, and while we were taking pictures, this group of like teenage boys on the very top floor of the parking garage started yelling stuff down at me, and we ended up, I don't think, really using any of the pictures from that area because I just looked so uncomfortable in all of them.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
You just recently posted a picture I saw of Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
I found online a Bela Lugosi Halloween mask. I was like, I want to be Bela Lugosi Dracula for Halloween now.
That sounds so cool.
It's trick
That's
or treat.
another one that's in my horror tarot a lot is the Bela Lugosi Dracula. It's like, since it's vintage horror, it goes all the way from, I think the earliest film is like, I think it's like 1903 maybe is the earliest one, up to like the 60s. So it's very like old, lots of silent films in it. So I got a lot of inspiration from all that stuff.
Have you seen all of those movies?
Yes.
I've
watched through them so many times over the last couple of months doing this.
Can you get tired of rewatching the same movie over and over again, like in a row, or do you need to be like, I just can't see this anymore?
I think with this deck, it wasn't as bad that way, because I've had, like, the Bowie deck, even though I love David Bowie so much, he's one of my biggest inspirations. I have 2 tattoos of him, but it was like just staring at the same thing for so long was like, I need a break from this. But with this one, since it was so many different films, it was kind of like, oh, if I get bored of this one, I can switch to a different film. I'm still working on the same project, though. There's just multiple films in it.
The way I can rewatch the same movie in many different ways is there's always like people doing fan commentaries, like specifically about horror movies and science fiction movies are the two biggest genres people do fan commentaries on. And they're a lot of fun to listen to just because you'll get someone else's inspired perspective about a movie that's, like 80 years old, like Dracula is. And I do commentaries myself on movies for different films. We're going to be posting one on Thursday on Lucio Fulci's The Beyond.
Cool. I'll have to check it out when you post it.
We just the last one we posted was for Batman: The Killing Joke,
Nice.
which is more of like a why we hate this movie and why this movie shouldn't have been made, and God damn DC Comics for what they changed about Batman: The Killing Joke because the story itself was fine and torturous enough. No, we got to add in bat sex into it. Do you know of all the? Can you name some of the horror movies that are on your vintage horror tarot deck?
Yes. There's some that I felt like were a lot lesser known, sort of. Hold on, I'm gonna actually just pull up the list because there's so many.
I should hire you to run a Kickstarter for me because you're so successful at it.
Oh, thank you.
Again, I failed miserably at mine. We couldn't even break $1,000. Ugh.
There's Creature of the Black... Well, now I can't talk. Creature of the Black Lagoon, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dracula, Faust, Freaks, Haxan, which is kind of... It's not as much like, here's the monster. It's like a history of witchcraft. It's really cool. House on a Haunted Hill, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Night of the Living Dead, and... Gotta get to the second page. The Bride of Frankenstein, The Cat and the Canary, The Golem, The Infernal Cauldron, which is the oldest film in the whole thing, The Invisible Man, London After Midnight, Mole People, The Mummy, Phantom of the Opera, The Phantom Carriage, Psycho, The Magician, The Man Who Laughs, and The Wolfman. That's all of them.
There was a Creature from the Black Lagoon documentary that just come out, 60 Years of the Creature.
Cool. I'm really excited for the new deck to be out. Right now, everything for the Kickstarter has been ordered. I'm just waiting for the actual decks themselves to come in from the printer, because they're all still being printed right now. But once all those come in, then I'm going to be spending basically a day packaging up all the orders and then bringing all of them to the post office.
How long does that take?
A really long time. Last time for the David Bowie tour, I spent, I think, the whole day just packaging them, and then I think I brought them into the post office a different day, and it was like 3 big bags of boxes, and I'd like put up a stack on the table to talk to the post office person, then another stack, and it just kept going.
Doing all these projects and stuff, you were talking a little bit offline about really connecting with some of the interviews that I've done with people with their own mental health problems and other just illnesses in general. And do you kind of bury yourself in your art and your work and modeling and such to help you move? I'm tripping over my own words. To help you move past your own problems?
Yeah. I get very inspired and really love when people are able to do things that they like and find something they're passionate about despite problems that aren't their own fault. Like I have narcolepsy, so it's, if you don't know what it is, it's basically like you can't stay awake at all. Like you always feel like you've been 3 days without sleeping, and so you'll just like, there's times I'll just sit down and I'll not even realize it and just fall asleep. But it's also kind of like you can't stay asleep throughout the night because your brain has a hard time regulating the sleep cycle. So it'll be like, oh, time to wake up now, and you're trying to sleep, and then when you're trying to do stuff, it's like, okay, you gotta go sleep now. And there's a lot of other stuff with it, but because of some of the stuff with that, it makes it hard for me to have like a normal job. And also, on top of that, I have a lot of like physical like body pain that makes standing for long times hard, and like walking and lifting and stuff like that is really hard for me. So I try to do stuff that is like still stuff I like and stuff that I would enjoy doing, but also it's stuff I can do while still dealing with all these things.
How long have you had this?
I was just diagnosed with minor narcolepsy in April of this year.
Oh.
I had to have a sleep study that was like an overnight and the entire next day. They just monitor your sleeping.
Yeah, I had that for, I don't have narcolepsy, but I have sleep apnea. I finally, like, after years and years and, like, an ex-wife and a couple partners telling me that, you're not breathing when you're sleeping. And I finally went in for it, and they hooked all this thing, they gave me this giant device with all these wires, and they hooked up to myself, and I looked like the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You had these wires, like, hang off. You wear this thing around your chest, you wear this thing around your head, and...
You have the wire that goes, like, in your nose, and then you get attached to the wall behind you.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that goes into it.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. And then, I have sleep apnea, and I get a sleep machine, and it's a pain in the ass to sleep with sometimes because, man, when I first started using that thing, I felt like I was suffocating to death because you're putting that mask on your face, and then it's just like pumping air into your mouth, and I'm waking up in the middle of the night just like choking on my own air.
Mm-hmm. I
don't know if it's helped me any either. That's the other thing. It's like I have no idea if anything about me has changed or my immunity or my attitude. I don't know. It's just like, is this really even working? I mean,
yeah, it's kind of like you don't notice that stuff unless you're another person interacting with you.
Exactly, or someone sleeping next to you and they can hear that you're like, and that's what you're doing while you're sleeping.
I have so many times in my sleep that I will like punch or kick the wall, or like there's been times I've hit my head off the wall, and then I'll like hit my boyfriend a bunch. There was a couple nights ago, he said that I like took a pillow and was like putting it on his face, and he was like, "Why are you trying to kill me in your sleep?" But it's like, you don't like, I don't remember any of that at all. But in the morning he'll be like, what happened?
He'll look over at you and like, see this black eye? This is what happens.
I actually, when I had my sleep study done, I posted a picture of it on my Instagram, and even now, like every couple of weeks, I'll get a comment on it from someone who's about to have their sleep study done that's like, I'm scared, or what happened when you did this, or were you able to get help from this, and stuff like that. And I'm glad that has been able to kind of help people, and that me posting that and like people commenting on it, I've been able to talk to people and being like, this is really helpful, and I was diagnosed with this, and my doctor's been very helpful with getting treatments and helping me with getting through this and dealing with it.
What is your next convention that you're going to be going to coming up?
The next one is Rock and Shock, and then after that is one called Bangor, which is a horror convention in Bangor, Maine.
There's a horror convention in Maine? That's so cool.
Yeah, it's the second year of it. I'm really excited for it this year.
Oh my god, who are they going to have there? I've never heard of that. I mean, it's funny because Rock and Shock has pretty much cornered New England on like horror conventions. And CT Horror Fest had a convention in Derby, but it's like 3 hours from where I live, and I can imagine how long it is from where you're up in Maine. But that's really fortunate for you because you're stationed up there in Maine, so it's a lot more convenient than driving all the way down to Rock and Shock, which is in Worcester.
Yeah. If you've heard of the convention Bangor Toy and Comic Con, it's the same person that runs both of them. And
okay.
They've both been like very, very successful and very fun. I'm really looking forward to it this year.
The Rock and Shock this year, they haven't announced who their big guest is yet, but I've been piecing together clues that Kevin Barber, who's one of the showrunners of Rock and Shock, has been like dropping to me, or like asking him questions, trying to weed it out. The biggest clue of all, he said that he's like, this is the biggest clue you'll get from me, Chris. It's an actor, so it is a man who has never ever been to a horror sci-fi convention.
Ooh.
And they do both genre movies and non-genre movies. And they're definitely in their 50s or 60s, because I thought it was Jeff Goldblum. And he said no, but his career is as long as Jeff Goldblum's. And then I almost hit it again when I mentioned something about Jamie Lee Curtis only doing like the one con she's ever done, the horror hound, the horror hound one. And he was like, "You're so just, oh my god!" His girlfriend's like slapping him, telling him, "Stop! He's gonna figure it out." I think they're gonna get Kurt Russell.
Cool.
I'm like, but everything I pieced together, I'm like, it's gotta be Kurt Russell. The other thing he dropped, he's like, he was in 2 movies last year. One was big, one was unknown, but then afterwards people were like, wow, this is a great movie. And again, I'm thinking, well, Kurt Russell was in The Hateful Eight, and he was in Tomahawk Jones, which is a Western that when it went on Netflix, people watched, were like, wow, why wasn't this in theaters? This was such a good Western. And I'm like, yeah, it's got to be Kurt Russell, because Kurt Russell's done everything. He's done, I mean, he's big, obviously, for sci-fi horror fans for doing The Thing and, Escape from New York and stuff. And it's like, who else could it be? I'm like, trying to think, like, again, what actors have never been to a horror or sci-fi convention before? And they're in their, like, late 50s or 60s.
It's hard to find someone who's never been to one before, also.
True, but all those clues that he dropped make me think that it's Kurt Russell. They haven't announced it yet, and he hasn't said yes or no. So, he said it's definitely not Jeff Goldblum, so he definitely killed that one. But they're going to have, like, 2 of the actors from Scream there, which is kind of cool. The killers. They're going to have Billy and the other one. I don't remember Billy, the actor who played Billy's name, but I don't remember the name of the character Matthew Lillard played. So they're gonna have those 2 guys there. Cool. Billy and Stu, the 2 killers from Scream, which would be great to have them sign my Blu-ray copies of the first 4 Scream movies, because I have those signed by Roger Jackson, who played the voice of the killer in the Scream movies. Mm-hmm. Did you see the Scream TV series?
No, I didn't.
That was actually, I thought, pretty good. It gets a little bit high school-y at times. It just makes you want to, like, stab stuff in your ears, because it's, like, fucking ridiculous sometimes. But overall, I thought the characters were really cool. The motivations of the killer were much better than they were in the movies. Definitely worth checking out MTV's Scream Seasons 1 and 2.
Cool. I'll take a look at it. Definitely.
Where can people find out more information about your amazing artwork and your absolutely beautifully stunning pictures?
My Facebook page has all of my stuff on it. It has my art and my modeling stuff and whatever else I feel like posting on there. And that's just Aesthel on Facebook. Aesthel. I also have my Etsy shop, which is called Runic Treasure. That's where I sell my tarot decks after the Kickstarters are over. And I also sell, I make, like, soaps and bath products and any other things kind of associated with the tarot decks. So, like, I have stuff left over from the Kickstarters, like extra prints or extra pins or something that's like, once those are gone, I won't be making more, because they were only made for the Kickstarter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Again, I'll if I do consider doing not the current mini comic book we have coming out, but next year or a year and a half when we have the main Dracula comic book coming out, maybe I'll give you a ring-a-ding and be like, hey, okay, so you're insanely successful with the Kickstarters. What can I do to entice you to run ours? Because I'll
give you all the secrets.
Give me some secrets, or I'll just pay you and then hire you to do it.
Yeah.
Because running a Kickstarter is a full-time job, and you thankfully said so yourself that you can't have a normal full-time job. So your art and your modeling and everything you do is what you do to to make your living. So you definitely obviously need someone to run your Kickstarter that doesn't have a job, or it could take a month off from their life to run a Kickstarter.
Yeah, a lot of it's also like sharing it on different social medias and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, I posted a Kickstarter update. Time to also post the same update on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and all the other websites out there.
Definitely. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. We look forward to running into Rock and Shock coming up in the middle of October and having dinner with you and your partner.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem.